Yes, ma'am. Place 1, Tiffany Murakowski. I probably butchered that. She will probably be here later. Place 2, Kelly Turner. Place 3, Chairman Rod.
Here.
Place 4, Amanda Hollis.
Here.
And place 5, Vice Chair Patrick Vader. Ma'am, we have a quorum.
Thank you for that. At this time, we'd swear in any speakers that we have for our regular session this evening.
Yes, ma'am. We'll be swearing in our Community Development Director, Edward McCoy. Please raise your right hand. Yes. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
I do.
Sir, are you the applicant? Are you planning on speaking this evening? Okay, if I could have you come to the microphone right here, I'll need to swear you in by law, please. And your name, sir?
Hussein Kazim.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, we have sworn in our speakers.
Thank you. The items for consideration this evening, the first point of business is approval of the minutes from our October 27th, 2025 regular meeting. Do I have a motion be made for approval?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, it was Kelly Turner. Moved to approve the minutes with Patrick Vader seconding. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so none would be opposed, so we'll move forward. Tonight, we're going to open the public hearing for BOA case 26-02 to receive comments and consider action on a request to renew a special exception use of vehicle repair minor as required by Table 6.2 of the Unified Development Code and Conditions attached for the property located at 6317 Wildcat Way, parcel number 061-87687, NCS subdivision block 1, lot 1A of the city of Kennedale, Tarrant County, Texas. And we will begin first. Edward, when you bring forth your information, would you also introduce yourself? You're new to the community.
Yes, ma'am. Did you want me to go through the presentation now, or did you want to do the public hearing portion of it first?
First, could you go ahead and just introduce yourself to the group, and then we'll do the public hearing first.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Edward McCroy. I've been here about 4 months now with the city of Kennedale, plus or minus a few days. Just to let you know a little bit about my background, I am former Air Force for a number of years. Got out of that and got into the planning game several years ago. So I've been doing this quite a while. I am AICP certified with the American Institute of Certified Planners. I've worked in a variety of communities around the Metroplex, and probably the largest community I worked at was the city of Abilene, where I was their assistant director of planning and development there. So I've worked in Midlothian, I've worked in Carrollton, I've worked in South Lake. That's where I started my career as an intern in both their city management and in their planning departments. And so, like I said, I've been in a number of different communities around with of various sizes, worked in general law communities and in home rule communities. So like I say, Abilene was pretty large. It was about 126, 127,000 people when I was there, something like that. And in communities, like I say, they're under 5,000. So one of the things I can tell you is that cities are pretty different. Some things are the same, but there's a unique political culture to every city I've been at. So I've learned over the years that there's not necessarily one cookie cutter approach that works in every situation. You need to be sensitive to the local community and to the historical factors that come into play. So I want to tell you, I'm married, wife of 35 some years, 2 boys, twin boys, and just glad to be here and be a part of the community, and hope to be able to serve you to the extent that you wish me to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Edward. Now we can open the public hearing, and just to make sure I'm correct, sir, was it your last name, Kazim? Kazim? Okay, Mr. Kazim, would you like to speak a moment about what you would like to do to renew this?
Try to do a little bit to be on the subject quick because I'm not a good speaker. Good evening, Mayor and the council members. My name is Hussein Kazim, and I appreciated the opportunity to speak to you regarding the special use permit for my property. For the past 3 years, this property has operated under a special use permit. During that time, we have worked hard to operate responsibly and in full compliance with the city regulations. Our goal has always been to be a positive part of the community and be a responsible property owner. We have invested significantly time and resources in the improvement and maintaining the property. These improvements were made with the long-term success of the property and the surrounding area in mind. During that period of the use permit has demonstrated responsibility and without negative impact to the neighboring property. I am respectfully requesting that the council considering the special use permit to be a permanent use. Granting a permanent use will provide us stability and allow us to continue investing in the property with confidence and productive for the community and the city. I value the neighborhood, I respect the city regulations, and I am committed to continue to operate in that way, reflect positively on the community. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kazim. We may have more questions after we hear the staff report.
Okay.
Thanks.
Did you want to put this on so it would be on the screen? All right, so thank you, Madam Chair. My name once again is Ed McCroy for the City Director of Community Development. This is case BOA 26-1, so it's the first one of the new year. And as the speaker before you indicated, this is a request for a special exception. The special exception did expire in February. It was issued 3 years ago, and it was issued for 3 years. And so any enforcement action has been stayed pending the application outcome. The applicant came in prior to the expiration and made an application to extend it. And so they're operating under that right now. I don't take action as long as you come in and do the right thing, right? Which they're trying to do. Fortunately, I have a PowerPoint presentation, but for some reason we're having some technical issues. The same things I would show here in the PowerPoint is in your packet. So you should have in your packet a picture of the location, which is an aerial picture. The location of this particular property is right near the Walmart location. Okay, if you know where that's at, kind of in the northeast corner of our property here. It's kind of to the southeast, if you will, not quite at the intersection corner. This was the site of a former car wash, self-service type car wash. It has been reconfigured for light automotive repair. And I believe there was a picture in your packet for that of the building. It's sort of a low single-story building, kind of got yellow paint on it. And you can see when you drive by, it's highly visible in this particular area. This is an area of town that has a number of different types of commercial and retail type uses. We mentioned Walmart, which is not too far away from here. You've also got a number of gas stations and service stations in the area. There's a couple of restaurants, a couple of strip center type buildings in there with some various uses in there. So in that sense, the use is not, shall we say, incompatible with this area. It's near a fairly significant thoroughfare with a lot of traffic in there. So it's the kind of a use that you might expect in this location of a town, sort of near a highway, not too far away from Interstate 20, for example. So from a planning perspective, this is a use that would generally be considered compatible. To the south of this use, there is a multifamily unit, a series of multifamily units. A couple of those are there was one near there, near Kennedale, and there's further to the west of this, those are actually inside of the city of Arlington. So, but like I say, basically directly to the south here, in that entire road there, you've got a series of apartments that are through there. But that road is pretty wide. So this site is pretty well separated from those apartments. Over the course of time, since this original special exception was issued, there have been no significant events per se. In your packet, I did indicate that we've received about a dozen or so, maybe incident reports from our police department that reference this particular address. Those were mostly related to disputes with customers and the operator of the building here. Individuals that weren't satisfied with the service that they received, or individuals that came to the site and drove off their vehicle without paying. Those were the allegations. So those were not necessarily directly related to violations of the applicant per se. There have been some occasional reports of high grass and weeds on the site, right, in terms of mowing, grass getting a little high on those. All of those instances, and looking through the records that I have, indicate that those were resolved voluntarily without the need for any citations or otherwise being resolved. So in terms of the operation of the unit, I don't have significant reports for you in terms of issues that might be considered problematic or a nuisance. Of course, being that this is a vehicle service use, it is important to note that this is not one that would be a sales tax generating use, right? If you're selling products like a stationery store or something of that nature, or cell phones and things of that nature, the city would gain revenue from that. This is not a use that would generally receive a huge amount of sales tax revenue. We get the ad valorem from the improvements in the building, and there may be some little bits of sales tax generated here and there from various items that they might sell, but this is not going to be a huge sales tax generator when it comes to the revenue of the property. Staff's recommendation in this particular case is neutral, if you will. Like I said, it does appear to be generally compatible with the uses in the area. And so really, since I'm the new guy in town, one of the things I wanted to find out from you guys is, whether you think this is an appropriate use. Is this the right kind of a thing for this area? I don't want to just presume that. I could tell you from a broad planning perspective, it's not one that would sort of automatically jump out at me as something that, do you really want that here? No, you would kind of expect this use in that area. And the type of use that is allowed in here is really what we call light sort of repair. So about oil changes, brake work, mufflers, things of that nature. They're not taking out engines, right? They're not rebuilding them. They're not recapping tires. They're not doing any of those sorts of things. They're not doing body work, where you would expect they would have cars in various states of repair or being able to run or not run and being stored on the site. You wouldn't expect that to be true. There may be some occasional overnight storage here, just while they complete a repair, right? Or while they're waiting for parts to come in on a particular car, it might be there for a short period of time while that's happening. But you wouldn't expect that they would have a large number of unrunning vehicles for a long length of time stored on the site. And in fact, in staff's recommendation, I've made some recommendations on potential conditions that you could attach to that if those are concerns of yours. One of those being where those cars could be parked, for example, on the site. Those are laid out for you so that if you are interested in doing that, you can just make your motion based on those conditions. You can add or delete from those conditions as you would like. I would also like to mention in my presentation that you have the option of, once again, renewing this for a certain period of time if you would like to, or you can attach it to the land. Or from my perspective, frankly, I'm more comfortable with attaching it to the CO, or the certificate of occupancy, right? To the CO, which is called a certificate of occupancy. Every time a business opens, they have to get what's called a certificate of occupancy, right? That means we go in and we inspect the building, make sure it's safe, make sure there's no fire issues, et cetera. That CO is tied to a specific owner operator and a specific business name, right? So if the owner decides to sell the business and a new owner comes in, they have to get a new CO. So rather than saying 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, that becomes a bit of a burden on the operator and also on staff trying to keep track of those things. So if you want to put a limitation on it in terms of time, my suggestion would be that you go tie it to the current certificate of occupancy.
Do you know when that expires?
A certificate of occupancy continues so long as the business operates with the same owner and the same type of business. So if the business owner changed his business type from automobile repair to selling coins or whatever, he would have to get a new certificate of occupancy at that point. Or if he sold the business outright to someone else, they would need to get a new certificate of occupancy.
Yet even though he has that CO, he still has to operate under the requirement.
Under the, right.
Yeah, the
right.
city's codes and stuff. It's not
Right.
as exempt.
In the packet that we have, you have staff recommendations. If we approve this, just a basic approval, does it include those staff recommendations or do we have to say those?
You do need to verbalize those specifically, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Or you could say as recommended by staff.
Okay.
And it would include all of those in there.
One more question. Just because we have in the past given a special use, don't they still have to go through the CO process?
Once a CO is issued, in essence, it continues.
He's already gone through that though, right?
He has, yes, sir.
I was just making sure.
Now, sometimes things can happen that cancel out that CO, significant violations, zoning issues, et cetera, where there are situations where we can do that. Those are sort of extreme circumstances. Usually COs continue on as long as the business continues.
So I make sure I understand the timing. When he came for the special use 3 years ago and it was granted, he still had to get a CO
Yes.
through the city. So that CO's continued. Here we are 3 years later. If we granted another extension or a new special exemption, he wouldn't have to apply for another CO. That CO stays in place. If we did away with the special exception and just made it part of his CO, he still has that CO in place.
Yes, sir.
Nothing changes with the CO tonight unless we remove the special exception.
Right.
Tonight.
Correct. If you remove the special exception, he would not be legal to operate,
Illegal.
and he would have to, in essence, shut down his shop. We would work with him to make that happen in a reasonable fashion.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Like one of the concerns was the storage and stuff being left out overnight. Have we addressed that? It looks like is there a storage building on site that meets the requirements of the city?
Well, outside storage is a separate zoning matter, right? Once again, this is a special exception. So one of the things that means is that you can attach conditions to it when you believe there are potentials for impacts that are negative from the business. And one of those might be the storage of tires or the storage of other things. So you can certainly add those into there that, for example, limit the amount of outside storage, right? Or outside storage can only be on the back. Generally speaking, outside storage refers to things that are not contained within a building, right? You could even say they allow outside storage screened fences. I mean, typically in a business like this, as I indicated, you're not dealing with a large amount of things outside. You might have some cars that are parked out there. Now, I don't know if they do tire changes or not, right? A tire shop, for example, is the one that on automobile repair that tends to have the most problems, if you will, with outside storage because tires sometimes stack up all over the place. And they're supposed to remove them, only keep a certain amount of them over time just because of environmental rules, right? But there's a tendency in those kinds of business to have those things kind of pile up and not necessarily look very nice, the old tires that they've replaced. But I don't believe they do that here. The applicant may be able to confirm whether they do or not.
Realizing that you're kind of new on the job, as far as your research, there hasn't been any significant complaints from the neighbors regarding storage or unsightliness of the site, other than the few issues that you might have indicated that might have been disputes.
There's nothing in the record to indicate that, yes, sir.
I think it's been an ongoing concern of the council, the P&Z, the staff, all of us that have been involved of storage and making the community look neater and tidier. I drive by his place pretty regular. I'm sure some of us do. You'll see I've noticed cars outside during the day. I can't speak to at night. I think if we were looking to add anything to the recommendations here, could you answer, do you have that, is it fenced in on the back of your property? Is your property fenced on the back?
If you could step up.
Yeah, please come on.
Because it won't be caught if you're not on the microphone.
I understand there's a security issue there, leaving cars outside at night. I know that's a concern for you, but the tidiness of a property is huge important to us, especially along the parkway, but of course over where you are as well. Maintaining that tidiness makes me a whole lot happier about, approving things like this. I don't know that I've ever noticed you having a big issue with that. There's plenty of cars outside during the day, but they're supposed to be. You're working, but my big concern would be to make sure that the tidiness of the place is maintained, and I don't see much here that says that it hasn't been. So I don't have a lot of concerns about that end of it. Did you?
Well, yeah, we're trying to keep it, as with the city ordinance, we're aware of that. No car park at nights, stuff like that. It has to be inside. Maybe this, during the day, like you said, there's a car park waiting for the parts to come in to fix it in like a couple hours and more than that. We're like a minor auto repair. We're not doing any heavy stuff. 2, 3 hours is gone mostly. Oil changes, stuff like that.
Could you remind us what your hours of operation are again?
We'll start from like 7 to 6,
7 to 6?
and a weekend from 8 to 4. Sunday we close sometime, depends. Yeah.
So quick question. I have noticed tires stacked on the property. And I have some concerns about storage meeting that. And then I didn't know if the container type storage meets our UDC code. Edward, can you help us with that? I don't know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like I say, when you say container, you're talking about like one of these containers off a container ship?
That's what it appears to visually. I don't know that.
I don't have an answer for you at this moment. I apologize. I haven't looked into that specific aspect of that. My assumption is that if there's a container on site, that it was placed there prior to, my being here, and it went through an appropriate review process. So that's my assumption at this point. But I can certainly look into that if that's important in terms of your decision-making this evening.
Did you get approval on the?
Yes, ma'am. Was Nathan. Nathan, I went down, checked out in particular, we have a problem with the tires. Tell him, Nathan, how we can solve these problems. Like, once he said, it's okay, he allowed me to put a shipping containers in there on the property for that reason. Yes. It's not half, sometimes full. It's, as he said, safely and very, like those container, shipping containers, they're very safe. Nobody can break in, or even it's like a metal made, nobody can put a fire or something, nothing will hurt. But if
No,
that's
I just
anything,
didn't
yeah,
know.
anything we always want to do with the property, I always confer with the city approval first.
Okay. So you did work with Nathan on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
And I don't think when we originally granted this exception that we thought that there would be additional shipping containers on site. So that's something we probably need to address. I mean, if there's one, potentially there could be two, and not telling you how, I'm not telling you your business, but, and this is not directed at you, it's directed in general of what happens when special exceptions are granted. So it's not what we do to you, it's what happens to everybody else because of that. So I'm just gonna say that are there other options to get rid of those tires other than having a shipping container on site? Could you have them stored inside and then removed more frequently?
Yeah, we have a company that come, but they did not be
You
like.
can go to the microphone, sir. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It doesn't pick up with nothing.
If we're storage, we are very limited in the space. We're being put the tires and the used tires. When you change a tire, you have to put the used one and the company come and take it away. They do that like maybe once a week. It depends when we have a lot, once every 2 weeks. So,
You do a lot of tire work, apparently.
yes.
I think that in our conditions, if we decide that, I think we need to make sure that we address the container versus containers.
I agree. I will say this, that it makes me feel pretty good that the tires are stored outside. One of the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah,
problems you'll
for a
have
fire
with something like that for
yeah.
fire reasons, if it gets going, it's
Hard to
over.
put out, aren't they?
Oh, man, they're ugly.
But this container is very safe.
Well, and
All
it's
flows.
separate from the building too, which is.
Yeah, it is separate. It's just,
I think in
It-
this case,
it's
the
a metal-
materials that he's
sorry.
got are, it's good to keep, that container catches fire, which is obviously very unusual that it would, but if those tires somehow caught fire, building's safe. We'll let that little container burn, but we'll protect the building. So, from my experience, and not that fire is that important, but the safety of those locations, if they're not real tidy and take care of removing oils and things like that, they turn out to be a pretty big mess before much longer. And I understand why he's got a container there. I haven't noticed the container, but as long as it's neat and tidy and there's just a container and not, 3, 4, 5 of them on any of these properties, then I think we're probably okay.
yes, sir. That's why we get not the tall one, the little one, the big one, so it won't be like, see it obviously.
Yes, sir.
That wasn't the concern.
This is one of the, when we granted this initially, it was outdoor storage must comply with the provisions of section 11.25 of the Unified Development Code. And I know, Ed, we're not asking you to quote that tonight. And certainly I don't recall exactly what that was, but outdoor storage in that part of the code, I don't know that it allows containers. Yeah. Well,
Well, I can tell you this, that one of the things we can do, independent of your special exception this evening, that allows you to add conditions that in essence restrict operations. It doesn't allow you to expand upon legal rights that a property owner has on a property based on their current zoning. So to the extent that anything out there is a violation of the zoning standards or a violation of other rules, those could potentially be actionable, right? In terms of a code enforcement type matter. I can't tell you today, standing here, whether it is or is not, because I haven't done a site investigation on this specific situation. I haven't reviewed any elements, and I haven't gone through the record to see what may or may not have transpired with my predecessor. in this
so if
particular
we
case. But-
renew this basically like we did 3 years ago, it would be incumbent on you to determine whether or not that container still meets the Unified Development Code 11.25. I'm just mentioning this only from the standpoint that that could affect his ability to have that container out there. Because
Absolutely.
unless there's something from the city, other than Nathan saying, yeah, you can put it out there, needs to be a little bit more formal than that, I suspect.
Right. Well, like I said, that's something that I can't really comment on at this point because I
Right.
haven't investigated that fully.
Yeah.
But once again, I just wanted to assure you that the approval of the special exception would not necessarily grandfather, to use a term, anything that was in violation of the zoning ordinance or that may have transpired. We could still take action on that. I don't know if there's anything like that that's present at this particular location at this
I
time.
want Mr. Kazam to understand that potentially, if we grant this extension for your facility, it's possible that that container might be in violation of our original agreement. Since you didn't, I don't suspect anyone came to the board for the container. Just make you aware of that. So in the office, there's a remote possibility that may be in violation of what our original agreement was. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to,
But
From
just
a-
get your attention, I wouldn't do it unless.
no,
I can prove it
I'm
was-
not implying you did. I'm just,
Sure.
the repercussions of what we're doing here could,
Yes, sir.
okay, all right.
Yeah, tonight we're trying to think through solutions too. I'm wondering if one solution might be to table this discussion. Because I understand you can continue operating, table it and let Edward do some homework and see if there's anything that does violate the situation.
moving forward with this and if that, and let the city investigate if that container is in violation, then he's going to end up in front of us again anyway.
I don't think
An
it
exception.
requires anything on our part. If we were to renew it the way it
Yeah.
is, it'll be up to the development
Yeah,
or the code compliance people to determine that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think,
And I'm probably not going to be available next month anyway, so
Yeah.
just not that it makes any difference for somebody else.
well, of course it does. Makes a difference. So,
No,
Travel.
that seems fair, Edward, and we'd be putting it back in your lap.
I can say, like I said,
And
in
Randy,
looking at section 11.25, there are limitations that apply there. For example, you can't be more than 33% of a lot area. Container probably wouldn't cover a third of the property, right? The storage is limited to goods and things that are typically stored outside. Used tires are oftentimes stored outside in these kinds of businesses, so that's not unusual. There's a requirement that it not be in any setbacks. I don't know if it's where it's placed, but as long as it's outside of those setbacks in the district, that doesn't automatically exclude a container. The height can't be more than 8 feet, right, of the stacked materials. Okay, so depending on the size of the container, that could be an issue to be resolved. I don't know how tall these things are, or the one that he has out there is. So that could be an issue. And then they'll be, they do say it's supposed to be screened by a fence, 6-foot fence. This is really kind of a building in essence, if you will, with these containers essentially function like that.
The goods are screened by
Yeah,
the container.
And they're very heavy. They're hard to move.
Yeah.
Right? They are very solid, as the applicant has indicated. It takes a pretty good wind to knock one over. And again, it is true that having tires stored within a building like this does tend to reduce fire issues. For example, when these things catch fire, when tires catch fire, they burn for a long time and it's nasty smoke and everything. So to some extent, having them separated away from areas where there could be open flames of any kind would be a good thing. It also keeps them out of the elements. So you're not having these tires in a rainstorm fill up with water and then they become mosquito breeding grounds, right, during the summer. So in that sense, it's kind of an optimal way in a lot of ways to store these things rather than just putting them in a rack outside, right? And they're fairly easy to load and unload when it comes time for a truck to haul them out and take them to wherever they're being dealt with. So your approval tonight would not affect whether or not there's any violations that are out there. We can still take action on that if there is such a need to do so.
Where is the container currently located, Mr. Hakeem?
Just in the back.
But it's behind the building.
Yes, sir.
You could see it from Walmart, which I don't care. But anyway, okay, that's fine.
The trees within there and stuff.
You can see it
it's
from
only
Robinson.
There you go.
about
That's all right.
It's 7 feet, it's not even.
Okay.
And with the
All right.
trees and stuff like that.
I got you. Okay.
It's kind of hidden,
Yeah.
It's not showing.
any more discussion? Okay. Do we have anyone with an action on the table?
I'll make a motion that we grant the special exemption that was approved in February 14th, 2023 to include vehicle repair minor in C1 zoning to ensure that the use, along with any special exemption conditions, is compatible with surrounding uses, does not impede development allowed in the C1 zoning, that all the automotive work is done within a service bay. Outdoor storage must comply with the provisions of section 11.25 of the Unified Development Code, and that the special exemption is valid for an additional 3 years.
I'll second.
I'll
I'll
s-
second. Go ahead.
All right, so Mr. Bader has made a motion on the table to move forward with another 3-year special exception for this property. And I can't recite everything he just said. Tina, did you catch all that? Okay. So, yeah, it's all right there at the bottom. So I'm going to move forward with the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
None are opposed? So we will move forward. All right, without any further business tonight. Thank you.
Seconded.
All in favor?